light before me. I cross into the unknown. I try to leave my fears behind me. Try to carry on. Every day sing a song of praise. We've come this far by grace, yeah. And if you pray to find your place, love will lead the way, yeah. Lead the way. In the shadows of the valley, tears mingle with rain, and the shining light will break my darkness, and mercy will remain. Bless the 7 souls who raised me back in Georgia State. And tell my loved ones not to worry. My love will conquer hate. Oh, every day sing a song of praise. We've come this far by grace, yeah. And if you pray to find your place, love will lead the way, yeah. Oh, love will lead the way. Oh, love will lead the way. Love will lead the way. Love will lead. Love will lead the way.
Thank you, my dear. It's so good to have you here. Any Sunday with you on this stage is a good Sunday at Unity on the Bay. And the same applies to all of you in the room with us today. Today's a special occasion in that we are welcoming 3 individuals into membership at Unity on the Bay. And I take this very seriously, not only because of the responsibilities that come with membership in this community, in terms of your involvement, your participation, your support, but also very much so in the sense that I believe that everyone that is called to this community, and most especially called into the experience of membership, is experiencing an outward indication through that activity of something very deep and eternal taking place within them. And that is the commitment to their own spiritual development and to being the light of God in this world. So it's a wonderful blessing to welcome these individuals as members of our spiritual community, and it is a wonderful blessing to welcome them into the experience of being a part of an energy, both individually and collectively as community, that I believe is truly bringing the world all that is needed right now for us to live healthier, happier, and more harmonious lives. At this time, I'm going to invite Michael Cannell to stand, Rosalie Laurent, and Evelyn Sanchez, and welcome all of them to join us. We have kind of a different experience these days, folks, in that we have not only in-person participation in our community, but now virtual participation and virtual memberships. People that will never probably walk into this room are now becoming members and friends of Unity on the Bay, which is a beautiful thing. I invite you to take a moment right now to exercise your God-given power to bless as we send each of these individuals, Michael, Rosalie, and Evelyn, our blessing, our light, and our love, knowing that they are empowered to go forth not only as agents within the community of spiritual Unity on the Bay life, but also into the spiritual experience of life as a whole. And we give thanks for each of them as they and we together continue moving forward in faith. Thank you, God. Amen. Well, we have lifted off on a journey, in case you didn't notice. It started 2 weeks ago with a magnificent book by the author Michael Singer called The Untethered Soul. I was first introduced to that book about 15 years ago by a former associate minister here at Unity on the Bay. Some of you may recall and remember, Karen Epps. Juan has done a wonderful job, Reverend Juan, of bringing us into the first 2 weeks of this life-changing experience. And I don't use those words lightly because I think that the content of this great book really has the ability to impact us on levels that change our lives significantly, as does any spiritual practice or study or pursuit. But I really want to thank him for bringing us this far. I also want to wish him and invite all of you to wish him a very happy birthday, because that's tomorrow for Reverend Juan. So happy birthday to Reverend Juan. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we do behold the Christ in you. During the first 2 weeks and in the first several chapters of this book, The Untethered Soul, we've learned a couple of things. One of them is that we have this, you may have noticed, roommate, as Michael Singer calls it. This voice that hangs out wherever we go. It seems almost incessant, and it seems that it cannot be dismissed. It's a voice that always wants to report to us from what Course in Miracles would call the voice of fear. Concerns, troubles, worries, woes. In essence, it's the voice of fear, which for me is the same as the voice of resistance, the pushing against anything or anyone. And I really want to invite us all to look at this, because I think that it almost happens unconsciously that we find ourselves in situations where we're pushing against something. We're trying to push something away. We're trying to reject something. We're trying to bring something down, as opposed to recognizing our ability to stand in support of that which we are most longing for and desiring. You know, if we get over here into this camp where the roommate wants us to be, the voice of fear, we're fighting, we're pushing, we're making other people wrong and bad. When we move over into the voice of love, what we're going to find is all the messages are going to be consistent, reminding us that we have the ability to move in any direction that we desire at any time. You see, the difference then is, instead of working against something or walking against something, standing against something, we're standing for something. It's not about what we don't want, because remember, wherever you put your mind and your energy and your attention, you're going to generate more of that. So if you're looking at this terrible thing over here and how awful it is, that's exactly what you're going to be contributing to. You're going to look at this terrible thing as it comes closer and closer and closer and closer to you, as opposed to looking solely and honestly and earnestly at that which you are desiring, which always comes from the level of your soul and from your heart, and is guided by the voice of love. Stand not against that which you despise, but rather stand for that which you believe in and that which you support. because accordingly you're going to be directing energy in very important ways that will determine the fulfillment, the success, and the happiness in your life. So we've been through stage one. We've understood there's this voice of fear. There's a voice of love. There's two voices, as Course in Miracles again says, two voices, two choices. And there's only two, my friends. It may seem multifaceted, but the reality is you're either standing in the field of fear or you're standing in the field of love, and it's a choice that you and I are free to make in any moment. Now, we're ready this morning to begin the experience of understanding the dynamic of these two voices, choosing the voice we're going to listen to, and beginning the experience of living wholeheartedly. I'm talking about living with your whole heart. Your whole heart. And don't you know that the heart has an intelligence and a capacity far beyond your brain? And when you tap into that, you're tapping into the wellspring through which all of the divine attributes the Spirit of God has blessed you with come into play in your world. You're looking inside for solutions instead of outside for them. And the premise of this whole experience we're going to share this morning is the understanding that you and I have direct access to infinite energy that provides for a completely fulfilling life. This isn't something we have to go in search of to try to find somewhere, even though many of us, even spiritual seekers, are doing just that. We are seeking instead of just discovering, instead of remembering and inviting. So our objective this morning is to more deeply immerse ourselves into the understanding that we already have everything we need to live a fulfilling life. It's just that we have to look in the right places. And those places are always inside of us, not outside of us. Michael Singer says, you have a phenomenal amount of energy inside of you. Now, you may not be convinced of that right now in this moment. Perhaps you are, and I'm thrilled if that's the case. But oftentimes we spend many of our days, sometimes years, not realizing the phenomenal amount of energy that is contained within us. And just a little intention to further cultivate, understand, and bring into practice in our world this energy makes a huge difference. He says at any moment you can draw upon it. When you're filled with this energy, you feel like you could take on the world. Have you felt that way before? In those moments, perhaps not every day. I'd like to feel that way every moment when I wake up. But I have had those moments when I realize I could take on the world. There's nothing that would be impossible to me. That experience is your natural state of being, absolutely fearless. The voice of fear may be over here in your mind, still chattering on to you about cares and concerns, but you're not preoccupied with that because you are beginning to develop this wellspring from within you, this energy. In unity, we would refer to that energy that's so powerful as the energy of infinite, eternal, divine life. Again, the source of all that is required for a fulfilling life. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity movement, when he was 91 years old, and I pray that I can make this statement, he said these words, "I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I fairly sizzle with zeal, enthusiasm, and I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me." That's the potentiality of every moment, that you're actually sizzling with this energy of the life of God. And the only reason you're not fully experiencing and expressing that in any given moment is because you, and I'm not just accusing you, I'm right there with you, you and I and most of us don't realize that we are the only one that is standing in the way of this flow. We're the only ones that can even seek to inhibit it in any way. And ultimately, I tell you this, the life of God is going to have its way. So you can struggle, you can repress, you can try to push against it, you can try to continue to remain in the mindset that you don't have access to this wellspring of infinite energy, but you do. An illustration that I've used many times before, but I like it so much I'm using it again this morning, is the gardener who is out watering his flowers, and all of a sudden, or his vegetables, whatever it is that you prefer, maybe a combination of both. You can have great food and smell pretty at the same time. But it stands in this way, that the gardener is suddenly realizing there is no water coming out of the garden hose and doesn't understand why. He didn't turn the faucet off. Nothing has changed as far as he knows. The water is still running up to him, but he's not receiving it. And all of a sudden, he looks down and he realizes he has his foot on the garden hose. And all he has to do is take his foot off. He's the one, consciously or unconsciously, just as are we, that put his foot there on the hose, reducing the amount of water that was available to him. And so this morning, what I really want us to get at is, how do we get our foot off the hose? And that's all that's required. No one else needs to do this for us. We just have to realize I'm stepping on the supply of this infinite invisible energy, and I don't want to do it anymore. I want to open full throttle so this energy is rushing and racing through me at every given moment that it possibly can. Michael Singer says, the heart is an energy center, and it can open and close. As long as you are defining what you like and what you don't like, you're allowing the mind to create triggers that will open you or close you. Let go of that. Dare to be different. Enjoy all of life. So we're wanting to move beyond this idea that when people and circumstances are meeting our personal prescription, we feel great, our heart is open, we're nary a care in the world, to recognizing that when people and circumstances do not meet our personal prescriptions, our heart inevitably closes. You can actually become aware of this according to how you are feeling, my friends. When you're feeling really good, solid, and centered, it's a sign that you're allowing, your foot is off the hose. You're allowing the rush of divine energy to work in, through, and as you. And the same is true when you end up with your foot back on there. Things aren't going my way. We don't think we have any control over this. It's going my way, my heart is open, the world is a beautiful place in which to be, to I don't like the way this is progressing, this isn't becoming fulfilled according to my personal prescription. I don't like it, the heart begins to close. I had a personal experience with this over the last couple of months. And actually, it was much more intense than I would have expected it, given my many years of spiritual study and my understanding that I am a sovereign spiritual being who doesn't require anyone and anything outside of me. When all of a sudden, you may recall that last August, I had him here, my friend, best friend of 25 years, Kevin Rice, dear, beyond dear. It's like we are soul brothers. And that connection has been alive for 25 years, 20 of those being in South Florida, when he calls me and tells me that he's leaving because his partner has a new job in Palo Alto, California. He worked for Neiman Marcus here in Palm Beach before that store was closed during COVID. Then he was jobless for a while, and then Neiman Marcus brought him back, but in Palo Alto. Well, my internal voices were not very happy about that, because this is my best friend. You know, and suddenly I'm not going to have this, what I consider to be unconditionally loving presence in my life, because trust me, as friends, and you know this if you're good friends, we all see the very best of each other, we see the very worst of each other, and we keep on loving each other. So it was really disturbing, and quite a lot of mental dialogue began to occur inside of me. It began with resistance, pushing away this idea. I don't want my best friend moving away from me. Discovering that I was clinging to the relationship in ways that I am not even really proud to admit, but I'm just being honest with you. And experiences that I thought I had outgrown years ago. You have this happen where you think you've mastered something, and all of a sudden it's right back in your face again. And for me, part of that was deep-seated emotions and reactions and experiences from the past around being abandoned. Now, nobody was abandoning me here, not really. It was just change taking place in life. But the feeling and what I didn't realize still lived in me at such a deep and lasting level was this sense of abandonment. And that was fearful for me because after all these years, I didn't realize, but I still had a fear of being alone. You know, it's astounding to me how deep some of these fears are, but it's also beautiful to me how the circumstances and the changes that life brings always point out to us exactly the unresolved issues that are inside of us that are still waiting to be healed. But I wasn't very happy about it. I was experiencing resistance at levels that really, really did surprise me. I wasn't happy about it. I know enough now, thank God, because in previous situations in my life I haven't known this. I know enough now to realize that when I'm experiencing resistance, I'm standing in my own way. There I was with my foot on that garden hose. And ultimately, I have learned over the years that it is possible to move from a state of resistance into acceptance. Now, acceptance doesn't mean that you have to like this. I didn't have to like the fact that he was moving so far away, 3,000 miles. I don't have to like it, but I do have to accept it. I have to make peace with it. This is what is happening. So I know that's the first step, is to make peace and to gradually release the resistance that I may be experiencing inside of myself. Now, eventually, this acceptance, which is just, okay, I don't really like this, but I accept it completely. I'm not going to allow my resistance to be in the way of this. Ultimately, my friends, this carves its way into the experience of appreciation. How many of you initially have had an experience that you resisted? You perhaps, hopefully, finally got to a place of, I accept all things as they are. And then somewhere down the road, this is not a process that you can rush. It has a life of its own. But somewhere down the road, there comes a place of appreciation. And you're able to start looking at things with eyes of appreciation, realizing I don't know what this distance physically is about, but I know that everything comes for me and does not happen to me. So I am going to open myself to start looking for the ways, number one, in which I can maintain the beautiful relationship that I have here. I can give thanks for airplanes and cell phones and Zoom and FaceTime and all of this that will keep us closely connected. And then I can also remember that every relationship I have ever released that was truly rooted in divine love did have an eternal aspect to it. It continued to deepen and to grow. I had the joy, having been away for a couple of weeks, had some beautiful retreat time, quiet, silence, stillness, solitude, which if you know me very well is a very important ingredient in my life. But I also had 3 days where my son hopped on a plane and came here from Kansas City. And I remembered for just a moment 20 years ago when I left Kansas City, which was leaving my former wife, leaving my daughter, and leaving my son, and really feeling like it was never, ever going to be the same. Well, the reality is it wasn't the same. It hasn't been the same, and it isn't the same. But in these 3 short days that I spent with Aaron, who, by the way, is celebrating, this is shocking to me, his 40th birthday in December. I don't know how that happened. But I realized not only has the relationship maintained itself, it is better now than it has ever been. We are closer, and we proved through that geographical distance, external changes of circumstances and situations do not matter. That love truly drives all of our relationships, or at least has the capacity to do that, and we can trust that. Enjoy it all, and be cautious and aware of when you are trying to lay a prescription on yourself, another person, or life, your personal prescription. And what happens then when other individuals do not conform to your idea of the way things ought to be? Because all of this creates an entanglement, my friends, that keeps pressing the foot down on the hose. You want to let go of that, do your very best to realize I may have my preferences, I may have my desires and how I'd like to see things unfold, but I do realize at the end of the day, my life is being lived by something greater than myself. Circumstances are not happening helter-skelter at random out here around me. They're working in a way to continue to move me, all of the individuals I love, and life itself to a higher, more beautiful, and more loving level. You can tell how open-hearted you may be living in any moment by the way you feel. It's simple. It's a beautiful gift from God. When your heart is closed, when my heart is closed, and I attribute that to my attention to the voice of fear within me, or the roommate, as Michael Singer calls it, I'm fearful, I'm worried, I'm depleted, I'm apprehensive, and I'm anxious. And I'd like to tell you this morning that I never have any of those emotional experiences in life, but I do. What I feel I am a little better at today is realizing if any of that stuff is rising up in me, it's the voice of resistance. It's the voice of fear. And that voice cannot be heard unless I am listening to it. So now I have the opportunity to say, I'm experiencing anxiety here. I'm experiencing worry, doubt, or fear. And in that recognition, realize I'm experiencing that emotional state because of the voice I am listening to, which is the voice of fear, my friends. Anytime we are experiencing anxiety, apprehension, or concern or doubt of any kind, it's the voice of fear. And remind ourselves that we have a choice we can make here. We can listen to fear or we can listen to love. If you can do this, you can take a moment then to recognize the thoughts that are being sunk, if you will, by this fearful dimension of ourselves, this roommate, and trace it just as I did to the real concern here is I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be abandoned. I've been alone before. I've been abandoned before. It always happens this way. Your opportunity to release that voice and instead direct your attention to the voice of love, which says all relationships are eternal. All relationships have the ability to continue to grow and deepen in ways far beyond anything we can imagine. When you're living open-hearted, that is, you're giving your attention to the voice of love that is within you and listening to the broadcast of loving messages that are going to come through, you're going to feel loving, regardless of circumstances or situations outside of you. Because it's not what's happening outside of you, it's the voice that you're listening to inside of me, inside of you. Do you hear me with that? It's the voice that you're listening to. So I can realize I have the ability to move from the voice of fear to the voice of love, make a different choice, and begin to feel empowered, trusting, happy, and fulfilled. That means the way to respond when we're triggered by a heart that is closing is to be still, to take a breath. Not always easy to do when the voice of fear is sounding loudly inside of you, but you can do it, my friends. Chill out. I always say chill out is the most important ingredient in this process. Let go, and this isn't easy to do because we invest so much in our own mental evaluation and judgment. But you can let that evaluation and judgment go and ask of yourself, what's the voice that I'm listening to that's generating this fear? And invite, you see, you have this wonderful companion. Call it the voice of love. Call it the presence, the Christ presence as we do in unity. It's a companion that can help guide you from the thought that is steering you according to the direction of the voice of fear into the voice of love. And these words I'm about to share may be the most important words I share with you this morning. This is an ongoing process. So it's not like one day you arrive and you're done. Because the universe will continue to give you opportunities to reveal that which you have accepted in yourself that has been delivered by the voice of fear. It's ongoing. So I hate to tell you the process of enlightenment is not something you just arrive at one day. It's a way you live your life, which means the stuff is still going to be happening out here, but it's not going to have the same effect on you because of the voice within yourself that you are listening to. Singer goes on to say, just decide that no matter what the mind says, you aren't getting involved. Sounds easy. On a good day, it is. You don't fight the mind. In fact, you don't even try to change it. You just make a game out of relaxing in the face of its melodrama. So you can listen to it as it's going on and on endlessly about all the perils and the concerns and the negative possibilities that may exist out you, but you're just relaxing and opening, and tremendous energy will rush up inside of you. This is a constant, eternal resource that's available to all of us. And my invitation to you this morning, my beloved Unity on the Bay family, is to master the art of living with your heart open, with your mind quiet and receptive, your attitude in appreciation, your emotions calm and poised, your steps light and confident. And in so doing, you become the vessel through which life as we know it begins to change. There may be massive millions hearing only the voice of fear and doubt and worry and concern, but you shall not be among them. Not because you're special or superior to anybody, but because you have discovered the power of your own freedom to choose what voice you will listen to and allow it now and in every moment of your eternal existence to direct your steps. God bless you.
Aren't you so glad that you heard that message this morning? I know I am. Thank you, Reverend Chris, for sharing that. I want everyone to just, whether you're here or at home, just take a look down and get off of the hose. You're standing on your own hose. We're standing in our way. And so remove your foot. Get out of your way. Thank you also, Reverend Chris, for that really vulnerable share. And the story, I think that there was something definitely that we could all relate to in that, releasing resistance and moving towards acceptance. I was like hanging on each and every word. So thank you very much. All right, let's just take a deep breath in together, shall we? Take a deep breath in. Take a deep breath out. What a gift it was and is to receive that message and to be in the law of giving and receiving, right? It feels so good to receive. Now is our time to give in gratitude. So as we move into our opportunity to give in gratitude, I want to remind you that if you are here, that there are envelopes available for you to provide your offering to Unity on the Bay. Or if you'd like to go green, you can do so by texting the word GIVE to the number 1-833-245-5645. And that information is on the screens and also on your computer. So if you need a reminder, you can use that. And remember that our text giving number has changed recently, so please make a note of that. And also it's changed on the website, and I just recently updated my own profile so I can give on the website because that's my preferred way of giving. And I just want to give you a few moments to prepare your offering in the sacred space as you prepare to give.